So you gotta be careful. The mind will trick you.
Yeah.
And it's saying, just sleep in today, you deserve it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't deserve it. So there's that fine line of the mind getting the tactical advantage over you to where you're like, I've worked too hard. You really haven't worked hard enough. The way you explain that about the child's mind is 100% the truth. I just want to sleep in, always throwing tantrums, never getting what they want. Whenever they don't get what they want, they throw a tantrum. But what happens is we never grow. We are 40, 50, 60, still throwing that tantrum we once did at 7 and 8 years old. So people think with age is growth. No, it's not. You have to go back into the scarring to get the growth. And what's funny about that, I often say it, on the other side of that extreme place that I call suffering, call whatever you want, there's a whole nother world that people have not even examined. But you have to go to that extreme place to examine it. We want to stay here in this comfortable place. Once you're willing to push yourself to that extreme place, it's like a whole nother universe. It's almost like you're an astronaut and you've examined something like up in outer space. No, it's always been there. But you have to be going through all the muck and all the shit to examine it. You realize, wow, God, through all this crap, there's a whole nother universe over here in my mind. Whole nother universe. They drew my blood and realized I have sickle cell. So sickle cell is a blood disease that some African Americans have, which is not good. So they took me out training for a week. And when you go from being uncomfortable, that's your lifestyle, you get used to being uncomfortable. Right. When you go back to being comfortable, your mind says, I don't want to go back to being uncomfortable again.
That's right.
So I was like, I don't want to go back to the water. So my whole mindset was, I want to get out of this training. So I was hoping that they were going to medically disqualify me from pararescue program. That didn't happen. A week later, the doc called me in the office and said, hey, guess what, man? We're going to put you back in the training. I was like, okay, well, I missed a week. I got about 2.5 weeks left. I can do this. I went back to the CEO, the commanding officer. He said, hey, guess what? We're gonna start you back from day one. And when he said that to me, my mind went back to the old David Goggins. So I thought I had changed. Learning how to swim, learning how to read and write. All I was doing was attacking the surface. I wasn't getting down into the dungeon of what was really bothering me. So whenever like tough times would happen, any tough time that would, really tough time that would happen, I would go back to the sewer of my mind. So this happened, I went back to lying. I said, hey, you know what, CEO? This guy, the doc didn't know about sickle cell. He didn't give me a good reason why. He's talking about sudden death, heart attack, stroke. I'm not comfortable. So he gave me a medical from pararescue. So he allowed me to leave. But I really quit. I didn't want to go back in the water again. And that's when I went from weighing 175 pounds to 297 in about 3.5 years. So I did a job called TAC-P, controlling fast movers behind enemy lines. But that job wasn't a job that I wanted. And the spiral of depression, of trying to find things that I was comfortable doing. And whenever you find things that you're comfortable doing, you're going away from the journey of life. And I was going so far away from my journey that my weight showed my whole mindset. Most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. You wake up with it, you walk around with it, eventually you'll act on it. And my self-talk was the most disgusting self-talk of all time. So the sewer of my mind, like I said, you have to go back in there and fix things. A lot of us are afraid, like right now, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have found me on this show. I was too embarrassed to tell you I stuttered, I lied, all these different things, getting beat up, getting bullied, whatever happened. But that's where the true transformation starts to happen. When you can look at people, anybody, thousands of people, one person, and say, hey, this is who I am. And this is where I have to fix myself. And this is where it really happened. I thought it happened when I was in, 19, 18 years old trying to pass this military test. It happened here when I was almost 300 pounds spraying for cockroaches, making $1,000 a month. And, people call me dumb. My dad called me so many things, it's not even funny. Being beat just stripped me of all self-esteem. This is when I realized I was alone on this earth. I have God, but alone on this earth, and I have to fix everything. So this is where I started to develop an indestructible mental toolbox. So I came home one night after spraying for cockroaches at Ecolab, And literally, I was praying at Steak and Shake, and I would go across the street to 7-Eleven. I had a 45-minute commute home. So I worked from 11 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning. I had a 45-minute commute home. And my stop would be, Steak and Shake, chocolate milkshake, across the street, 7-Eleven, box of mini chocolate donuts, and I would eat that on the way home. When I come home, I turn the TV on, I take my shake, go back to the back, turn the TV on, and take a shower. Listen to the TV while I'm taking a shower. This day I heard these guys on the TV talking about Navy SEAL, toughest, class 224. So I heard stuff about Navy SEALs. These are the baddest of the baddest.
Yeah.
And so I come out, and I'm watching this show while I'm drinking my shake. And when you're watching the show of guys who are putting out there, and they're quitting left and right.
Oh, sure.
Just can't handle it. They're going through Hell Week. They show them going through first phase, second phase, third phase, and they're dropping like flies. I looked in this one guy's eyes who was ringing the bell to quit, to put his helmet down out of Navy SEAL training, and I saw myself. And I saw what everybody said I was going to be, which was nothing. What I said I was going to be, that conversation you have, that's who I was. So that's why I lied to people to tell them a different version of the truth. I had to make all those lies reality. I had to make it real. I had to become a real person. So that's when I put in my mind that I'm going to go to the toughest military training on the planet. And where it has the most water, the thing I was scared of the most, I had to go back. So a lot of us run away from our fears. And we box ourselves in to a lifestyle of this is all we can do. I'm afraid of everything outside this box. So I'm comfortable inside this box. I jumped the box for the first time in my life. Mentally, I jumped the box and said, hey, I got to come out here and play.
Here you are, suffering away. What makes it worthwhile? Rights? You're completely out. You have no idea what it's almost impossible to describe how bad an idea that is. Responsibility. That's what gives life meaning. It's like lift a load. Then you can tolerate yourself, right? Because look you're useless, easily hurt, easily killed. Why should you have any self-respect? That's the story of the fall. Pick something up and carry it. Make it heavy enough so that you can think, yeah, well, useless as I am, at least I could move that from there to there. For men, there's nothing but responsibility. I was watching The Simpsons the other day. I watched the first Simpsons episode and I deconstructed it. And so it's really interesting. So what happens in the first Simpson episode is that it's Christmas and Homer and Marge are going to buy some Christmas presents, but Homer doesn't get his Christmas bonus. And so he's absolutely crushed by that. And that actually is a recurring theme in The Simpsons, where Homer loses his job or something like that, or can't make enough money. He's completely crushed. Even though he's kind of useless, bumbling, laughing fool of a guy, the thing that gives that show its soul is that he's still oriented towards his family. That's what makes him honorable, is that foolish as he is, he's decided to adopt responsibility for his family and to try to bear that. And so he's a holy fool. He's not a complete fool. And it's so interesting watching the story because he suffers dreadfully as a consequence of not being able to fulfill his responsibility. Well, that's for men. Women have their sets of responsibilities. They're not the same, right? Because they're complicated, because women, of course, have to take primary responsibility for having infants at least, but then also for caring for them. They're structured differently than men. For biological necessity, even if it's not a psychological issue, and it's also partly a psychological issue. Women know what they have to do. Men have to figure out what they have to do. And if they have nothing worth living for, then they stay Peter Pan. And why the hell not? Because the alternative to valued responsibility is impulsive, low-class pleasure. Why lift a load if there's nothing in it for you? That's another thing that we're doing to men that's a very bad idea. And to boys. It's like, you're pathological and oppressive. It's like, fine then, why the hell am I going to play? If that's the situation, if I get no credit for bearing responsibility, you can bloody well be sure I'm not going to bear any. But then, your life is useless and meaningless, and you're full of self-contempt and nihilism, and that's not good. And so that's why I think That's what I think is going on at a deeper level with regards to men needing this direction. A man has to decide that he's going to do something.